wrestling world dominated by hot takes, one man decides he will take on only the hottest takes in pro wrestling.
Wait, what? No, that's not true.
Only the most controversial and extreme takes he can find.
It's actually just takes, just regular goods and bads, just nothing crazy.
Fire takes, no glazing, only blazing.
Please just stop. It's not that controversial. They're just community opinions, and we have some fun.
You're a bag.
Excuse me?
You heard me. You look like LA Knight got laid off to work part-time at a Costco.
Seems rude. Can we just start the video now?
Spicy takes.
Still no. BLS16 says, the We Want Truth chants were incredibly deserved. Maybe this will be a wake-up call to WWE and TKO to not release fan favorites. You know the situation is bad when R-Truth is getting chants when Punk and Styles are in the ring. They were loud. I am glad that people were chanting this. I saw signs in the crowd. People were at least trying to get their voices heard throughout the show about this, and like Carlito as well. I think that this was probably the dumbest thing WWE or TKO has done. And we have no idea the ins and outs, by the way. We don't know if something happened, if it was contract negotiations that didn't go well, or it's just as simple as TKO is like, we don't want these people under our employment anymore. We want to trim the fat for no real reason. Whatever it is, it's dumb. R-Truth is beloved by WWE, by fans. We want him on our TV, or at least we, for the most part, most people, get a kick out of R-Truth when he shows up. I'm not looking for a 15-minute match from R-Truth. I'm barely looking for matches from R-Truth. I'm looking for the entertainment value that I get from his character, from his presence, from being on my TV screen. When he shows up, I'm gonna laugh. And that is really important. You take that away, and even if you take Carlito away as well, who brings a similar factor and a similar element to the character, to the TV show every week. You take those guys out and there's no relief. You need that on your TV screen in this type of environment for what this product is. It doesn't make a lick of sense, especially you just came off of his match with John Cena. You made him out to be the complete polar opposite of evil John Cena, the good of John Cena. And you let him go? Like, I don't know who's in charge and who's thinking that this was smart, but I hope the fan revolt continues, because she dumb. Ollie and Nilo says, with the women's only PLE coming up, Evolution 2, I hope we start to see a bigger story for Io with the title, because I would like her to have a solid program for both that show and SummerSlam. But I fear that WWE isn't doing enough across the board in the women's division to have matches we are invested in across these next large set of events coming up, which is a shame because the women have proven that they can carry a main event with men still being part of it. I totally agree. I hope that they do more. Io was on Raw. She interfered with the Liv Morgan thing to help out Kairi Sane. So I get that little dynamic there from Damage Control, or what was Damage Control. So that makes sense, but you haven't had Io in any type of program since WrestleMania. Teasing with Rhea Ripley feels like a holding pattern until Money in the Bank. And it's odd because the women's Money in the Bank is, I find it very exciting. It looks great. The lineup is great. I think there's a lot of people that have the potential to cash in, but mostly on SmackDown. That's not a bad thing. That's a great thing. But on Raw, it's like if Rhea wins, it's just foregone conclusion. Rhea wins, and then she goes after Io, and then you just do that story. And I find it a little stale. I like what they're doing with Liv and Roxanne, but when it comes to the title, yeah, I hope that they do more. And to build a whole show, Evolution 2, you're bringing in probably a lot of different talent. Maybe even AAA, TNA, you got NXT, Raw, and SmackDown. But is it just a hotshot show for the sake of doing it, or are you going to have real compelling stories? WWE, throughout their history, has struggled, in my opinion, with writing stories and characters for women. Sometimes they do well, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes the stories are dropped, and sometimes it doesn't make any sense that, maybe a women's storyline has more momentum and is a little bit more in favor of the fans than that of maybe one of the other guys' storylines, but they'll choose the men's story nonetheless. So I don't know what to say about it other than I hope that they get more programs. I wish that the women were getting more thought out programs that have deeper storylines, but they never seem to do it. Like I like what they're doing with Roxanne and Liv, but that's about it. Like, and on SmackDown, Chelsea Green, for example, not being in Money in the Bank at all, I think it's a shame. Yeah, I love Chelsea. Breaker Bomb says, I don't like Roxanne being in the Judgment Day. It feels like copy and paste to what Liv did last year, which was the reason of getting me back into pro wrestling after a 4-year drought. And it just doesn't feel right to me. And I do know that's what they're trying to do, but it just ain't hitting for me. Let me know what you think. Much love for the channel. Well, thank you for love. It does feel a little bit like Roxanne is doing what Liv did to Rhea, and they're doing it a little bit again, maybe just tweaking the story ever so slightly. And I think that is kind of the point, is they can say, hey, we had a really cool story arc of Liv coming in and getting in with Dom and the breakup and Rhea and all of that, what we created there. And that was really good. So why not try it again? And you're doing it in character, right? The writing of it, it's like, well, they're doing it now to Liv. Liv is getting her comeuppance. However, I do think that they're doing it in a little bit of an odd way. Like, they have to determine what's the position of these characters, maybe a little bit more in terms of defining their roles. Because Liv, to me, in this situation, is the good guy. And maybe that's ultimately what they want, is they're like, hey, we could spin Liv off to be a big, huge babyface coming out of this whole Roxanne deal and maybe the breakup of Judgment Day. But I think I'd like to see things a little bit more interesting, where it's not the obvious Roxanne is like toying with Dom. Because you know what? It's a little different because it is Finn Balor. This isn't Dom getting mixed in with Liv, although Finn also was like bringing in Liv a little bit last time. So yeah, there is some overlap there, but I do think it's a little different because you're getting an alliance of Finn and Roxanne as the main thing. And the flirting with Dom almost feels secondary. And it's like, it's Finn and Liv having the pull apart, the dynamic there. And they are having the confrontations and the frustrations and butting heads. And not so much Dom, because if you look at Raw, what we just had, Dom was like, really, he's like, hey man, we okay? Because he's got tensions with Finn. So I do think it's a little different. I hope it shakes out well. But I can see where the similarities are in there, and maybe it doesn't work for some. UFW, El Grande is good and all, but CM Punk or AJ Styles should have won Money in the Bank qualifying match. Hey, I love El Grande Americanos. He won that thing. He's getting in there. Chad Gable, El Grande Americano. He is doing double duty that weekend. I love it. I think he pulls off great matches every single week. Do I think it would have been more interesting if Punk won Money in the Bank? Sure. But part of me does feel like there's a bigger story. It's CM Punk. He's their top guy, one of their top guys. They're not going to just take him out of Money in the Bank or not have him there with no plan. There's a larger plan at play here. And Punk in Money in the Bank does make me a little nervous. The guy's old. Like, let's be honest. Like, I worry when he goes out there and he's got a Raw match. I'm like, is he going to tear a tricep or blow a knee out? I don't want any of that. I'm just saying, you got so many Punk dates, you got to preserve them. Putting him in a big, nasty ladder match, that's dicey. Like, John Cena doesn't go in the ladder match, does he? Roman Reigns ain't in the ladder match. So I didn't see Punk making it in there. But I do think that there's going to be a larger story at play. Would have been cool that Punk won. Yes, because of the intrigue you would get in the match of him trying to stop Seth Rollins all the time. The, I think, X factor of Sami Zayn. Is he going to turn on Punk because Punk lost? And that was his whole MO coming out of Raw, was you need to win to beat Seth, and he didn't. And AJ Styles, I'm still holding out hope that one day AJ does get back to the top, like on Raw with the world title, and gets a run at the world title. Like, that would be fun. Even if down the road this year, the world title flips around and maybe Punk gets it at some point, or it is AJ. But I'd like to see AJ and Punk one-on-one for the world title, or AJ and Seth for the world title on the line. Like, those are great matchups to have. I just like to see AJ with the belt, because his run as WWE champion on SmackDown, it was great. I just want to see that again for AJ, but I feel like he's going back down. He's going IC title. Mabashir, Crowd, Hurry. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce the name. It feels extremely repetitive with Seth Rollins and his crew always interrupting and screwing over wrestlers in most main events of the show. True, do think that is the point though, is to dominate their presence on the show. The positive is that they're intersecting throughout the show with multiple people who are already in their own storylines. Where we have Raw, where it's the three baby faces standing tall against Seth's group at the very end, but they did have a through line thread of the episode of Punk and Sammy. Then they have a tag team match of Jay and Sammy against Braun and Bronson to get to the qualifying match at the end, and it all breaks down to schmoz. However, I do know what you're saying, where you're like, Triple H and creative have a tendency to not be very creative when it comes to some of their segments where it's a brawl or the pull apart brawl. Is kind of like, we have a segment here and we need these characters to not destroy each other. So what do? Pull apart. Security comes out and breaks it up. It gets done over and over and over again. Now, having them dominate, you kind of need it right now, I think, for Seth's group for this story in order for it to work. If they're cowardly, it's not as entertaining. It's not as interesting. You kind of want to see them. Sometimes the bad guys gotta beat them up like a lot and not be cowardly runaway heels, because you do that, then you're doing the old tropes too. Like it's a very hard balance. I totally see what you're saying, where it's like, okay, we're gonna end in another thing. However, like where they're gonna brawl. However, you are getting like 2 tsunamis done by Bronson Reed. Very cool spot. So there's goods and bads to it. Bam! LMAO says, Lyra and Becky actually needs to be a stipulation match in order for the feud to be bigger. Sami Zayn turning heel wouldn't be the worst thing to do. I kind of agree. I didn't care for the promo segment that we got at Lyra and Becky this week because I felt like it was exactly the same as what we got the week before. Also, they did a Becky promo thing, a pre-film thing before, which I liked. I liked how it was shot and everything and produced, and it got the point across that she needed to. But they did that Becky thing, and then they immediately did a Lyra Becky promo worth the pull apart. So, and the promo, the essence of the promo was exactly what they did the week prior. And WWE has a bit of a habit of this, of like, they spin their wheels in some feuds where they don't have another beat they can do. So they're going to do this. So they just rinse and repeat it again. What I'd like them to do with that, or what I wish they would have done, is maybe do the sit down, where you have the sit down thing of Michael Cole sitting there and he's not in a basketball jersey. That was stupid. But you have Michael Cole sitting there and he's interviewing both of them. Not the satellite thing, but in the same room, and they can get their points across. Having a stipulation match, I think that could have worked better, because you did have it end with like Lyra's whole thing of like, I beat you with my eyes closed. Now, do you want to have a arm tie behind the back, Vince McMahon style match? No. But could you have done a submission match? Last woman standing match would have been pretty cool. Depends on the elements of this match, but you also have Money in the Bank. So you have a lot of ladders and chaos. You don't want, I think WWE is like, we don't want every single match to be gimmicked up. But this is the second one. So I could see where they would benefit from that, unless they're going to do a third one and they do a blow off. So it remains to be seen. Sami Zayn turning heel, I can see it. I want it. I think that they've laid the groundwork. I think Karrion Kross is the catalyst to push Sami Zayn to be a heel. Javi says, Michael Cole, Pacers jersey, and showing a replay of the NBA playoffs. I don't care for that. That is a little, they kicked off the show with this, with like, they had a bet, Pat and Michael did, and then for the playoffs and who won and who lost. So then Michael Cole has to take the shirt off and he's got the jersey. He has to wear the jersey for all of Raw. Ha ha. That's cute. It's a little too insider, which is an odd thing to say for WWE. I just feel like, unless you watch that specifically, you have no idea what Michael Cole is doing. And you don't know what Pat McAfee is referencing. Sure, and they're doing NBA highlights? Come on. Like, let's just stick to it. And I didn't need that starting off the show. Pat McAfee, for me, is getting to be a little bit too much. I don't mind his commentary. I find when he started with Michael Cole, I was like, this is fresh, and Pat brings like a really different element. And I get that they have really good chemistry, but I like Wade Barrett a little bit more. Joe Tessitore sometimes is entertaining, but I like Wade on commentary. Corey Graves, I kind of miss on main roster. Pat is not doing it for me, but this whole like wearing the jersey thing, I was like, okay, that's funny for you guys. But what about the people that are watching wrestling? They're not really into this. I thought it was an odd way to start the show. By the way, thank you, Javi. He posted this over at Patreon. Patreon.com/Assemble Wrestling Network. You can join there. We have videos. Carbon Cat says that woman's Money in the Bank match is stacked. We can now make the case for anyone to win. Naomi would be a great pick, as it will suit her gimmick. I agree. Roxanne would add the intrigue with the JD drama. As for the men, and there's more of like for every person. And as for the men's Money in the Bank, it's between Seth and LA Knight. Props to Dom for wearing the Carlitos t-shirt today. Oh, I didn't even catch that. Good for Dom. I totally missed that. I'm excited for both. Women's Money in the Bank, totally stacked. Gonna have predictions here on the channel, by the way, in tomorrow, or when is that, Wednesday? So that we'll have predictions going up. But I think the women's Money in the Bank, extremely stacked, tons of talent. Excited that every person in there, almost every person in that Money in the Bank has a legit shot to win it. And even, I say, Julia, who just won the qualifier, who also like was teasing with Zelina about going for the US title, which was a mistake because she's in Money in the Bank. Despite that, if Julia won, as an example, she, I think, would still be totally believable. And I really like that on the women's side. Everyone has multiple stories. Their characters overlap. They've all been kind of intersecting with each other. They all have justification for winning. The men's side, less. Like, Andrade got a qualifier. Come on, Andrade's great, but he ain't winning Money in the Bank. So, and I know you got to fill out Money in the Bank somewhat, but I think they could have done a better job. You also have a ton of guys on the Raw side. Like, if you really wanted it stacked, you would be like Seth, Punk, Sammy, Chad Gable in there, throw a Grande Americano in there. You could have had more people that are kind of rolling to the Cody. You could have had more guys rolling at the very tippy top to be like, oh my gosh, this would be the most stacked Money in the Bank ever. But they're not going to do that. I do like both of them. And yes, R-Truth and Carlito, shout out to them. The Wheel of Time says Kross got the biggest pop again. Maybe call it Raw is takes. Oh, for this show. I don't know. I don't care what it's called. Just takes. That's probably what I'm doing anyways. So, but Kross getting the biggest pop. Kross backstage with Sami Zayn, and it's like just a minute where Kross is poking at him, and Sami's like, leave me alone. You've been coming to me for months. Why do you keep bothering me? And he's like, you're a bad guy. I like bad guys. Kross is all upset, and he's all angry. He did get a big pop. Are they ever going to do it? That's the thing. I feel like WWE in a weird way is like, hey, Kross got all this momentum. His merch is starting to sell. He had the big shoot promo thing that he did. Let's not put him on TV. And almost like, let's see if he can still get over without us putting much work behind him. Can the guy please just have a match on Raw? He had the AJ one and then nothing. I think they're building to Sammy and Kross, but they were before WrestleMania and then they didn't. And then they were building AJ and Kross and they did one match and that was it. Like, they got to do something, man, with Kross. If they want to capitalize on Kross, you got to get him out there and do something and not just backstage. It's gonna flounder. And Greg says, I miss Carlito already. It was odd watching Judgment Day segments and Carlito was not there. Didn't like that. Thought it's dumb that they let Carlito go. He serves a purpose, a specific role, I think, within the group. And just why? Like, why? Why do that? Why bother doing that? Especially when the individual is clearly involved on TV every single week and you just delete a character. And that's the other thing too. Whether it's Truth or even more specifically Carlito, who is in a faction, who is actively on TV every single week, that are in segments that they play off of each other, and you got rid of him. The group on TV and the writers in the writing for this, they don't acknowledge it. Like, if you're somebody who watches wrestling just casually and whatever, just for the stories and the week to week as they go with this, one character's just gone. And it's not like what they do sometimes where it's like, oh, Finn is traveling, so he's gone for 2 weeks. Liv is doing a movie, she's gone for a couple of weeks. They explain it. This, he's released by WWE. You didn't want to just, I don't know, kayfabe it? Just be like, hey, where's Carlito? Did you want to gag it? And be like, anybody seen Carlito? And you'd be like, no, there's nothing. So if you're somebody who watches casually, I got a bit of a problem with it where it's like, man, you didn't even give anybody, the people that watch you every week, to give them a justification for why a character is just not on TV, just ignored, just completely just dropped. Just as, I don't get it, man. According to Plan says, Rollins needs to take the title ASAP. Have him cash in next week. The faction storyline will not start progressing and we will keep getting repetitive segments until that happens. Oh, just like he needs to get the title or else it'll just keep being the same thing. Yeah, kind of my ultimate prediction is Seth wins Money in the Bank. Feels too obvious, straightforward, and sometimes Triple H just does that and the writers do that where they're like, this is the direction, this is the obvious thing we're doing. We have a very straightforward plan. We're making it very clear that this is happening. The Jay Gunther match, they had a little backstage thing Jay and Gunther did on Raw. They have been hyping that June 9th title match for a while, for many weeks. Oddly though, Gunther has not gotten in the ring or gotten physical with Jay since they announced that as a match, which is an odd thing to do. They've only done promos together in the ring and backstage. I'm going to beat you. Like they're doing, I don't know why was he Italian, but they've only done these backstage segments and the promo stuff between these two to build a hype. Jay's getting all involved in Seth's stuff. Why wouldn't Gunther also get out there and just be like, break his leg? You know, so and Gunther also talks about like how, yeah, you're getting worn out. You can't keep doing this. You're doing all these bad decisions. You're a bad champion. Okay, that's a story, but Gunther should also just be like, I'm going to break him while he's trying to get involved in Seth's stuff. Seth feels like the obvious choice for Money in the Bank. I do, as someone else said in the comments, LA Knight's kind of my dark horse for this because if they don't do Seth, LA Knight would be a great pick and he could go over to Raw. I know the story is Seth trying to get the world title, but if you you could still do it. Like June 9th, I feel like Jay and Gunther is a big moment, and the obvious direction is Seth wins Money in the Bank and cashes in on Raw. Jay retains or Gunther wins it. And either way, Seth comes in at the end with all his guys, destroys everything, keeps Sammy and Punk away. Like they block everything, only for Seth curb stomp and beats probably Jay, wins the world title. There's your champion for several months. But for me, it can be fun. If LA Knight won Money in the Bank, it's his third year trying to get Money in the Bank. Dude still gets massive reactions. He's done everything in the mid-card US title scene. He ain't going for the Cena belt. He ain't doing that. If he won Money in the Bank and he decked it out all LA Knight style, have him tease it on both brands. Have him tease Cena and have him tease whoever is world champion. Because June 9th, it could just be Jay retains. Maybe it is just that. And if LA Knight did have Money in the Bank, LA Knight could come out and tease a cash in. LA Knight could cash in. And that sets up everyone, all the bad guys going after LA Knight. Or you could have LA Knight turn maybe a little more heel. I don't know. There's a lot of options there, but those are our takes. And they're just takes. Guys, if you want to check out our Raw recap, click this right here. Have a great day. Subscribe. Do all those good things in the below there. It's all free. Have a great day. See ya.